For Christmas, they gave me a cheap mug inscribed, "I peaked in the womb," while showering my sister with a brand new car. So I smiled, thanked them, then quietly made a call as I drove home. 3 days later, her shiny new ride had vanished, and my parents were under police interrogation. I wish I could say I was surprised when I opened it. I wish I could tell you the mug caught me off guard, that I laughed politely and then looked around for the real gift. But no. The second I peeled back the wrapping paper and saw those blocky letters, something in my stomach did a little nod like, yep, that tracks. I held it up for everyone to see, like I was on some low-budget game show called Guess Who's Still the Family Punchline. My mom cackled. My dad smiled proudly. My sister Kay tilted her head and said, "You have always been dramatic." Like that explained anything. I smiled quietly. Not the kind that reaches your eyes, but the kind that's socially acceptable in family photos and hostage situations. Then Kay opened her gift. You know that moment in a movie when the camera pans up and there's a string quartet and everything goes slow-mo and sparkly? That was this. Except instead of a romantic proposal or a soldier returning home, it was my parents handing Kay a set of car keys tied up in a red satin bow. "Oh my God," she gasped, like she didn't already know, like this wasn't rehearsed, like they hadn't already posted a teaser on Facebook about big surprises coming. She rushed outside in her little heeled boots, squealing, "No way, no way, no way, no way," over and over. I followed behind, not because I wanted to see the car, I already knew it would be something absurdly impractical, but because I wanted to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. And there it was. Brand new. Still had the dealer tags. Sleek, shiny silver. I think it was an Audi, but I can't be sure because I temporarily blacked out from the sheer absurdity of it. "She needs something safe for job interviews," Mom said, resting a hand on my arm. Like I should be proud. Like I should be grateful. Like this made sense, right? Because Kay, who had quit 2 internships in 3 months because they were too early, was suddenly the poster child for career advancement. I glanced down at my mug again, still in my hand. Inside, over cinnamon rolls and mimosas, which I made, by the way, everyone gushed about the car. Dad said something about investing in the future. Mom joked that now Kay could finally stop borrowing her car and wrecking the bumper. Kay cried a little, told them they were the best parents in the world. I didn't say a word, just sipped my coffee. The mug tasted like irony. Eventually, I said my goodbyes, hugged everyone, smiled like a team player, said, "Thank you for the lovely holiday." No sarcasm, no scene, just quiet. It was snowing by the time I got to my car. My actual car, the one I'd bought 6 years ago, the one I've paid off by skipping vacations and cooking sad lentil soup for most of my 20s. I turned on the engine, let it warm up, and sat there for a minute, watching the snow slide down the bow, windshield in slow, slushy streaks. Then my phone buzzed. At first, I thought it was just Kay tagging me in something obnoxious. But no, it was an alert from my bank. Fraud warning. A charge of $23,648 was made on your account at Elite Auto Center. I stared at the screen, then at the snow, then back at the screen. That dealership name. I didn't even have to Google it. I knew it was where Kay's car came from. I remembered it from the license plate frame. Elite Auto Center, silver Audi. My mouth went dry. $23,648. My heart didn't even race. That was the weird part. I didn't scream or cry or pull a U-turn and storm back into their living room. I just sat there and stared at the number. $23,648 for a car bought with my card, and they gave me a mug. I drove home in silence, snow turning the world into a soft, muted blur. Somewhere between mile 7 and mile 12, I pulled over at a gas station, turned off the engine, and blocked them from my bank account. I froze the card, logged out of every joint payment portal, canceled the scheduled monthly transfer I'd been sending them for the past 2.5 years to help with the mortgage. They never asked me to pay it, technically. They just said things were tight after Dad's surgery. I offered, they accepted, like they always do. I didn't bother calling them. What was I supposed to say? I'm just wondering why you committed credit card fraud and then gave my sister a vehicle and me a joke. Let them find out when the dealership calls. Let them be confused when the next mortgage payment bounces. Let them wonder. I opened my messages and dialed one number. Not Mom, not Dad, not Kay, fraud services. Hi, I said when someone answered. I need to report an unauthorized charge. I didn't even realize I was still holding the mug until it slipped out of my lap and landed on the floor of the car. It didn't break. Of course it didn't. Things like that never break when they're supposed to. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. Even though I'd barely slept, the mug was still there, sitting on the counter like it wanted to be acknowledged. I didn't touch it. I just stood there for a while, watching the snow fall sideways outside my window, and wondering how many times you have to be betrayed before it finally stops hurting. I opened my banking app again, like maybe it had all been some accounting glitch. But no. $23,648 from Elite Auto Center. Clear as day. No apologies. I took a sip from my chipped green mug, the one I got from a campus fundraiser back in college. It's ugly, misshapen, and the handle is cracked, but it's mine. I paid for it with tip money from a double shift. It hasn't stolen anything from me. I kept thinking about all the times I'd helped them. Quiet things, things they never asked for directly but always expected. Like when Mom hinted the mortgage was getting tight after Dad's surgery. I offered to help. She said, only if it's not too much trouble. But they never told me to stop once it became routine. I paid my sister's parking tickets, $600, every month, on time, like clockwork. I paid Kay's parking tickets once too. This was back when she still had her old car, the one she never took care of until it gave out completely. She'd forgotten about the tickets and cried when her registration got flagged. Said it was ruining her life. I paid them online at 2 a.m. and didn't even get a thank you, just a Venmo request a week later for nails before interview. I thought about calling them, telling them they had 24 hours to return the car. But I knew exactly how that would go. Mom would get teary. Dad would say something neutral like, let's all calm down. Kay would act confused and offended at the same time. No thanks. Instead, I got dressed, grabbed my coat, and drove. Their house looked the same as always. Beige siding, plastic reindeer half lit on the lawn. I parked across the street and let the engine cool before I got out. My hands were steady, but something in my chest felt sharp. Mom opened the door in her Christmas robe. Oh, she blinked. Sabrina. I wasn't expecting. I know you used my credit card, I said. Just like that. No small talk, no hugs. Just the truth straight between the eyes. She went pale for a second, then smiled like we were acting in a play. Together, and I'd flubbed my line. Come in, it's freezing. I stepped inside. The living room still smelled like pine and gingerbread. There were scraps of wrapping paper on the floor. The bow from Kay's car keys was stuck to the side of the fireplace. Dad was on the couch reading the paper like it was any other morning. Everything okay? He asked, not looking up. You used my emergency card to buy Kay a car, I said. $23,000. That got his attention. He looked at Mom, who gave him a look like, I've got this, then turned back to me. Well, honey, she started. And I swear to God, if she'd said, it's not what it looks like, I might have thrown the mug through their bay window. Kay really needed something reliable for interviews. You know how bad the bus system is out here. I laughed loud enough that it made Dad flinch. That's your explanation? You stole from me because Kay doesn't like public transportation? It's not stealing, Dad said, holding up a hand. You gave us access to that card for emergencies. I snapped, not for luxury sedans. Don't be dramatic, Mom said. You make good money. We didn't think it would be a big deal. You didn't think it would be a big deal to spend $23,000 of my money? There was a pause. That uncomfortable family pause where everyone wants to say something, but nobody wants to go first. Then, of course, came the star of the show. Kay walked in. She had on fuzzy slippers and a full face of makeup, held a giant iced coffee in one hand and her phone in the other. What's happening? She asked, eyeing me like I'd walked in with a warrant. She's upset about the car, Mom said softly. Kay rolled her eyes so hard I could hear it. Oh my God, Sabrina, really? You're mad about that? You make 6 figures and live alone. It's not like you're hurting. You used my card without permission, I said. That's called fraud. She laughed. You're so uptight. This is exactly why you're still single. You act like money is love or something. I turned to my parents. You can return the car today or pay me back in full. Otherwise, I'm filing a police report. Mom looked horrified. You'd do that to us over a car? Dad looked tired, older than he did yesterday. It's Christmas, Mom whispered, like the date was a shield against accountability. You didn't even give me a real gift, I said. You handed me a joke, then used my money to give her a car. I waited. No one spoke. Then I said it. The card is already frozen. The bank is aware, and I've canceled the monthly transfers. You'll need to figure out the mortgage on your own. That one hit. Mom gasped like I'd slapped her. You're punishing us. No, I said. I'm just finally choosing myself. I walked out before anyone could cry or yell or throw out some sentimental line about family. I'd heard them all before. Family means sacrifice. Family comes first. Family is everything. What they never said but always meant was, family is everything until it inconveniences Kay. I didn't slam the door. I didn't owe them that much energy. When I got back in my car, I sat for a minute with my hands on the steering wheel. My phone buzzed. New message from the bank. Fraud report confirmation. I smiled. It wasn't a joyful smile, but it was real. Turns out I didn't peak in the womb. I just hadn't started climbing yet. I didn't expect to feel better, but I did. Not joyful, just steady. After everything that happened at their house, there wasn't much left to say. There was only what needed to be done. I sat down with a cup of coffee and opened my phone. I scrolled back through old messages until I found the one I'd sent to my mom 3 years ago when I gave her the emergency credit card. It was simple. Just to be clear, the emergency card is for medical or house stuff only. Please don't use it for anything else. I took a screenshot. Then I downloaded the credit card statement, the one with the $23,648 charge to Elite Auto Center, and saved the photo of Kay standing in front of the silver car with a red bow. I'd taken it at Christmas without thinking. Now it was evidence. I called the local police department's non-emergency line and asked how to report financial fraud. A woman transferred me to an officer. I explained everything calmly, clearly, that I'd given my parents a credit card for emergencies only, that I hadn't authorized the purchase, that I had written proof and documentation. He asked if I was willing to send it. I said yes. He gave me a report number and an email address. I sent it all that afternoon. No drama, no yelling, just facts. I wasn't doing this to hurt them. I was doing it because they crossed a line, and I finally decided to stop pretending they hadn't. 3 days later, the fallout began. The first sign came in a text from Kay. You're unbelievable. A few hours later, she posted a video to her social media. Her car, technically the one I'd been charged for, was being towed. I got a voicemail from my mother from the driveway. She didn't say much, just filmed it and stared into the camera like someone had robbed her. The caption read, "Some people can't stand to see you move forward." She tagged me in it. I watched it once, then closed the app. Later that day, someone messaged me privately. We'd met once or twice, one of Kay's old high school friends. She said she wasn't surprised and that Kay had a long history of taking advantage of people. It wasn't meant as comfort, but I appreciated the honesty. The next morning, I got a voicemail from my mother. Her voice was shaking. There were police at the door today. They said there's a report against us for fraud. Sabrina, how could you? You're tearing this family apart. This isn't who we are. I didn't save the message. My father sent a short text later that afternoon. This has gone too far. We need to talk. I didn't respond to that either. By evening, the extended family started chiming in. First, a group message from my Aunt Diane. Did you seriously call the police on your own mother? I replied with one sentence. She used my credit card without permission. I reported it. No one said anything after that. The silence wasn't surprising. It was just louder than usual. As the days passed, Things started unraveling for Kay, too. She'd been planning to start a new internship in January, something one of Dad's friends had arranged for her. With no car, she couldn't get there. She missed the first few days, and they dropped her. She complained online, said I'd ruined her life, that I was jealous, bitter, and cruel. She left out the part where she spent my money without asking. Meanwhile, I got an alert from my old bank. An attempt had been made to log into the shared mortgage portal. Probably my mother. It was already shut down. She would have seen nothing but a login error. A few weeks later, someone forwarded me a listing link. Their house was up for sale by owner. The photos were poorly lit, taken from their phones. I recognized the living room, the same one where they handed Kay car keys and gave me a mug. I clicked through every picture. I didn't feel smug. I didn't feel satisfied. I felt done. With explaining. With trying. With being useful. No apologies. Only when it was convenient. I hadn't heard from them since the voicemail and the text. No apologies, no explanations, just quiet. A few days after the report was filed, the charge was reversed. The dealership pulled the car, and the card company returned the full amount. Quietly, efficiently. No apology needed. I sat on my couch that night, coffee in hand, and opened my banking app. Everything was in order. Nothing missing, nothing misused, everything mine again. I thought back to Christmas, to the way they smiled when Kay squealed over the car. How proud they looked, like they'd done something generous, something loving. I wonder if they still felt proud now. The mug was still sitting in the trash. I hadn't bothered to take it out. I didn't need it anymore. They broke the rules. I just made it official. For a few weeks, everything went quiet. No calls, no texts, no guilt-tripped voicemails, just silence. Like they were hoping I'd forget any of it happened if enough time passed. That had been the rhythm for years, after all. Some small fire, some quiet freeze, then everything reset like nothing ever burned. But this wasn't one of those times. Eventually, the silence cracked. It started with a text from my mother. "Can we talk? Just you? And me, like adults?" I stared at it for a minute, debating whether to ignore it. But part of me wanted to look her in the eye. I wanted to hear what excuse they'd finally settled on. So I agreed. 1 hour, neutral ground, public place. We met at a cafe near my apartment. Not their usual kind of spot. No booths, no syrup-drenched menus. Just clean tables, black coffee, and not enough privacy to throw a scene. She arrived first, alone, which is probably why she chose it. No Kay. Dad sat in the car. "She's too tired to come in," she said. "Sure." He hugged me. I didn't hug back. She didn't seem surprised. We sat. She fiddled with her wedding ring while I sipped my coffee and waited for the show to start. "I've had some time to think," she said, "about everything." I nodded. Didn't help her out. Didn't fill the silence. She smiled tightly, then launched in. "We were under pressure, Sabrina. Your father's been stressed. Kay's been lost. We didn't mean to hurt you." "Of course not. They never mean to hurt anyone. But it happens again and again." "I just think," she continued, lowering her voice, "you're so successful now. You've always been responsible. I thought maybe you'd understand." There was the compliment-wrapped guilt trip. They couldn't afford to be decent, but I could afford to be exploited. "And now," she added, "we're trying to sell the house, but it's taking longer than we thought. We're behind on a few things." She looked at me carefully, like a chess player trying to read the board. "If you could just help with the mortgage, for a few more months, just until things stabilize." I set down my cup. "No." Her smile faltered. "I didn't finish. You didn't need to." She blinked. "So you're really going to let your parents lose their home?" I leaned forward slightly, calm and clear. "You used me like a bank," I said. "Banks have terms. You broke them." That landed. She blinked again, this time slower. "We were desperate." "No," I said. "You were entitled. There's a difference." She sat back, looking smaller now. Not fragile, just deflated, like the air had finally gone out of the performance. The conversation ended a few minutes later with her saying she hoped time would heal things. I didn't disagree. I just didn't say whose time she meant. I walked home with the same quiet that had followed me all year, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was clean, like freshly swept space. 2 days later, I got a message from my cousin. A screenshot of a group chat I wasn't in. "It's disgusting what Sabrina's done. Calling the police. It was a misunderstanding, and now our parents are scrambling to survive. All over a mistake." So that was the new narrative. Not fraud, not theft. Just a little oopsie with a luxury vehicle. I didn't reply. I just forwarded the message to my cousin with 3 attachments. The credit card statement, the text I'd sent years ago outlining the card's terms, the police report confirmation. That was it. No caption, no explanation. She didn't message me. Again. Kay popped up online a few days later. New photos, new captions. The tone had shifted. Now it was all vague quotes about betrayal and family that only helps when you're useful. Sure. I didn't bother responding. I wasn't interested in changing anyone's mind anymore. The people who mattered would know, or they wouldn't. Either way, it wasn't mine to fix. Eventually, the house did sell. Not for what they wanted, probably, but enough to escape foreclosure. Someone sent me the listing link. I didn't click it. I didn't need to see my childhood packaged as square footage and potential. They moved into a smaller place on the other side of town. I know because Mom emailed to update her address in case things change. I didn't reply. I wasn't angry, I wasn't bitter, I was just done. One morning, I cleaned out the kitchen drawer where I keep odds and ends, takeout menus, old birthday cards, keys to things I don't own anymore. At the very back was the folded-up invoice from that December credit card bill. I shredded it, fully, carefully, like a closing ritual. They used to say I was the strong one, that I didn't need as much, that I could take it. What they meant was, you're easier to ignore. They taught me to be quiet. Turns out I was just waiting for the right moment to speak. So now you know what happened. Some people say I went too far. Others say I didn't go far enough. I didn't make a scene. I didn't scream. I didn't slam doors or burn bridges. I just enforced the boundary they never thought I'd draw. But what do you think? Was I wrong to call the police, to report the fraud, to walk away? Or was that the first right thing I've done in a long time? Either way, thanks for listening. And if you want to hear more stories like this one, honest, messy, human, go ahead and subscribe.